considered to be one of the deadliest threats to ever appear within the Milky Way galaxy. The Tyranids are a race that has a singular purpose: to consume and evolve at the cost of all forms of organic life. Unlike other races, the Tyranids cannot be bargained with, cannot be reasoned with, and will continue to swarm every world within their path until either the Tyranids or their foes are utterly destroyed. The race is effectively a galactic super predator, evolution taken to its most extreme, where each organism of the entire race, from the lowliest ripper to the largest hive ship, is part of a singular gestalt entity guided by the will of the hive mind. Guided by specialist organisms known as synapse creatures, which includes the likes of hive tyrants and Norn queens, the Tyranids seek out new feeding grounds and descend upon them like a plague of locusts to consume more biomass, adapt and evolve, before the hive fleet moves on to its next feeding ground. However, whenever a Tyranid organism is separated from the influence of the hive mind, it will frequently revert to a feral state, operating on an instinctive level, which can lead some creatures to become hyper-aggressive or even surprisingly timid. But given the sheer ferocity of many of the bioforms within this particular race, and their sheer destructive potential upon the battlefield, it would seem logical that this could be of potential interest to organizations such as the Biologus branches of the Adeptus Mechanicus, or even radical members of the Inquisition, to try and utilize such creatures in battle for their own ends as assault troops. The Imperium itself has a long history of using animals upon the battlefield, from the docile yet brutishly strong Mukali, used as mounts by the Rough Riders of the Talon Desert Raiders, to the massive and highly aggressive Thunderwolves, which are used as mounts and beasts of war by the warriors of the Space Wolves chapter of the Adeptus Astartes. This course of action isn't limited to just humanity, as other races within the galaxy have tamed dangerous organisms to use in battle. The Orcs of the Snakebite clan are infamous for their use of large ill-tempered boars, and even utilize the gargantuan beasts known as Squigoths effectively as mobile fortresses of flesh. The Drukhari are infamous for their Beastmasters, directing vicious creatures such as Razorwings or Clawed Fiends to tear their masters' foes apart. Even the Eldari of the Exodite clans train vicious reptilian beasts to serve as mounts for their dragon knights. So this leads to the question, can Tyranid organisms themselves be tamed? For clarification purposes, taming is the deliberate process of training a creature against its natural instincts to avoid or attack people, so that it instead learns to become tolerant of humans. The tameability or level of ease it takes humans to train a creature may vary among individual animals, breeds, or species. This should not, however, be confused with domestication, which is the permanent genetic modification of a bred lineage that leads to an inherited predisposition towards humans. Initially, this would seem unlikely, as the hive mind, especially when synapse creatures are nearby, completely overrides the natural instinct of lesser Tyranid organisms by sheer force of will. But what if the creatures themselves were cut off from the call of the hive mind? This could be done a number of ways, potentially. One way is to surgically alter the Xenos organisms themselves, possibly by partly lobotomizing the lesser Tyranid organisms to prevent them from being able to receive psychic impulses from synapse creatures. The Imperium does already do these kind of surgical alterations to certain livestock animals, such as groks. Groks are one of the most common species of livestock animal within the Imperium, and are farmed for their meat, which is said to be delicious as well as nutritious. Groks are naturally highly aggressive and extremely territorial, and so, to compensate for this fact, farmers are forced to lobotomize the bulk of their grox herds in order to pacify them, with only the breeding stock retaining their natural aggressive and territorial traits, although these breeding grox frequently have shock-inducing implants surgically implanted into their brains. The idea of lobotomizing a Tyranid organism in order to render it tame has already been undertaken on at least one occasion. Within the novel Black Tide, the former chief apothecary of the Emperor's Children Legion, Fabius Bile, acquires a zoanthrope, a synaptic creature used as psychic artillery by the High Fleets, within his laboratory upon the world of Deinicus V. This particular zoanthrope, in addition to being lobotomized, was spliced with other bioforms in order to use its own synaptic ability to keep other Tyranid organisms away from Bile's laboratory, by effectively creating a veil fashioned from pheromones and the creature's own psychic signaling capabilities. So while the potential use of lobotomization to pacify Tyranid organisms in order to sever their link from the hive mind is theoretically possible, the biggest problem in this regard is that Tyranid biology as a whole is so poorly understood by the Magus Biologus compared to the biology of other Xenos races. This is due to the constantly altering and shifting genetic makeup of various Tyranid biomorphs, which in turn leads to the potential problem of organisms recovered from the battlefield may only superficially resemble a second specimen of the same species that is collected later down the line. This in turn leads to a potentiality of one specimen being able to be severed from the hive mind, but another specimen being permanently under the sway of the Norn Queens. Tyranid bioforms have also been shown to be tameable through the use of specific pathogens and cocktails of drugs. Within the novel Storm of Iron, the Iron Warriors warband under the command of Warsmith Barban Falk managed to capture and infect the neural pathways of a Tyranid hive ship with the Obliterator virus. With the warband sorcerers applying constant psychic pressure in order to weaken its defenses, the creature would eventually succumb to the virus. It would then be used to transport the infamous Imperator Titan, the Dies Irae, to the world of Hydracordatus. Since the role of synapse creatures is to impart the hive mind's psychic will onto lesser organisms by acting as a form of psychic amplifier, is it actually possible for a regular psyker to perform a similar act and use their own abilities to enforce their will over lesser Tyranid organisms? Potentially yes. Within the story Heart of Rage, warriors of the Blood Angels chapter are brought to a heavily damaged Tyranid hive ship which had seemingly fallen into a comatose state. The Magus Biologist of the Adeptus Mechanicus, Epjar Zeren, attempted to recover the ship for study and had sent a team to investigate it, led by Adept Heraklite Indus. However, Indus's team had vanished, and the Blood Angels, led by Sergeant Kale, were dispatched to investigate and to, hopefully, recover any survivors. As the Blood Angels navigated the passages of the ship, they would come under attack by swarms of gaunts, acting on instinct to defend the hive ship. However, these gaunts would cease their attack with the arrival of a wounded and sickly hive tyrant. But this hive tyrant was no ordinary specimen. This particular creature was bonded both physically and psychically to none other than the missing Heraklite Indus. Indus, as it turns out, was in fact a psyker, though not a particularly powerful one, and had in fact seemingly managed to have psychically overpowered the sickened hive tyrant to gain control of the swarm on board the vessel.
I found this creature near death, do you understand? Too weak to fight me. I pushed in, touched its thoughts, and what I saw there, such riches, the knowledge of flesh and bone, nerve and blood and understanding, more than the scribes of the Magus Biologists could ever hope to learn. Raise memory, Adeptus of Staris, millions of years of it to drink in.
Indus would then demonstrate his control over the Tyranids on the ship, though the Blood Angel's librarian, Nord, believed that the hive mind was slowly asserting its dominance over the Adept's own psyche. This does suggest, however, that there is a distinct possibility that a Psyker can in fact control a small swarm of Tyranid organisms if the Psyker is powerful enough and the specific organisms are sufficiently weak-willed enough to be dominated. Theoretically speaking, this is highly possible, as upon the world of Necromunda, certain types of Psykers, known locally as Weirds, are classified as Beastmasters due to them being able to use their powers to mentally dominate and control various species of underhive organisms such as giant rats, ripperjacks, or miliosaurs. The rat-skin shaman known as the Caller even used his powers to control a miliosaur that was itself in excess of 20 feet in length, meaning that physical size of an organism isn't necessarily an issue, only their mental durability. But in order to completely dominate a healthy Tyranid organism and tear it away from the influence of the hive mind completely without the use of surgical lobotomization, they would need to be exceptionally powerful psychers, possibly of beta, alpha or alpha plus psychic classification. What do you think? Leave a comment below, and thanks for watching.